coming on the air with a weather danger zone. Wildfires out of control. An entire town evacuated. Record early heat. And as if that weren't enough, a potential tropical storm on the way. Our reporters are live in some of these hardest hit spots. Plus, an apology from Boeing's CEO on Capitol Hill. What he's telling families who lost people they loved in a deadly crash. And the changes he's planning to a culture he says is far from perfect. Plus, the thing in all your group chats, and we've got new details on it, what Justin Timberlake is telling police he was drinking before that DWI arrest in the Hamptons. Then postcards from the edge as America's busiest rail line melts down. We are on the train in the mess to explain why it may not get better quickly, even with fare hikes in our original. And 1 year after that devastating sub implosion that captivated the country, the new mission in the works for a high-risk trip to the Titanic. Later in the show. Hey there, I'm Hallie, and tonight in some parts of the country, it has never been this hot this early, with millions of Americans sitting in temps of more than 100 degrees. Dangerous stuff here, and it's not even the official start of summer yet. You've got heat advisories and warnings in effect from Texas to Maine, at least through Friday, with a bunch of cities, you see it here, a bunch of cities set to see more than 5 straight days over 90. Chicago, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, right here in Washington. Chicago's historic heat wave could bring the hottest stretch of nights for the city in 91 years. Texas, broiling, even while they're also prepping for the first big tropical storm of the season. Flood watches in place for millions of people there. And in Pennsylvania, storms slamming the area overnight, leaving thousands without power. You see some of the damage. Plus, those wildfires out west, they just keep on spreading. Look at this. Huge, ashy, orange plumes rising up here. You see the flames right there in New Mexico, with this town telling people, everybody in town, to get out ASAP. And in Southern California, look at this. LA County battling the state's biggest wildfire of the year, which is burning in some pretty hard to reach spots. It's really steep. The concern is now homes, power lines, oil pipelines. Drivers are being warned that all this smoke could make it really tough to see on the highways. Our team is covering this from every angle. Steve Patterson in California, Maggie Vespa on the ground in Pittsburgh. Meteorologist Bill Cairns is also joining us. Okay, Steve, so here we go. Wildfires where you are, with hundreds of buildings potentially impacted all across the West. Talk us through what the latest is.
Yeah, more like here we go again. Dozens of fires
right.
burning across the West. It really depends on where you are, right? I mean, there are several significant fires that firefighters are now on the front lines of. Several of them, though, burn hot, burn fast, burn out before police or firefighters get a good perimeter around them and they're able to take care of it. This is not one of those fires. This is the post fire. It is the Big Daddy, the one you've been referencing, the biggest fire in California, 15,000 acres plus now, but 24% containment. That's up from just earlier today, where we had 20% containment. Firefighters have a good handle on it. They've pushed it away from the interstate. I can hear the interstate where I am right now. You can't smell the smoke as well, though, because it's deep now in the forest. Problem is, because they pushed it so far, it's harder to get a handle on and harder to get to the front. I mean, we're hearing that some firefighters have to cross part of the lake in order to get to the front of the fire, which is dangerous because when you have a fire that is burning still, in most spots out of control, those embers can jump to a new spot in the forest, create another spot fire, and you got a whole nother problem. So firefighters really focused on getting this away from population centers, but it's tough. We spoke to the captain about how they're able to do it and what the big challenge is. Here's what he told me. Listen.
We are currently seeing the same conditions as the past couple of days, with gusts up to 60 miles per hour on the ridges. So the firefighting has been challenging. The terrain is really rugged, difficult to get to.
And the big problem, of course, remains the winds. We think we're out of the woods on red flag warnings, but it doesn't matter. If you get a good gust that's even more than 15, 20 miles an hour, that is enough to cause problems. That's what firefighters are dealing with as we speak. Hallie?
Steve Patterson, there is a lot to watch there, a lot going on. Thank you very much. Also a lot to watch, Maggie Vespa, where you are, and what people are watching, of course, is the thermometer, because it is, I mean, is that breeze helpful at all, or is it just so hot and gross?
I mean, calling it a breeze, though, is a massive understatement. Hallie, this is insane. This just picked up in the last, 90 seconds, and this speaks to how just, frankly, erratic this entire week has been. We're going to have crews holding onto our lights, holding onto our camera, holding onto our audio gear over here. I mean, the camera's shaking, right, and we just have raindrops starting to fall as well. This seems like a collision of the heat wave that we've had here in kind of the Midwest and across the East Coast, and then also we had storms rolling through parts of the Midwest as well. So it has just been a roller coaster of a week. earlier today was absolutely boiling. What didn't help, kind of sort of keeping in the theme with what's happening right now, we had storms roll through here last night. It knocked out power for a lot of people, so many didn't have air conditioning overnight. Listen to what this man said earlier.
It's so hot, I am baking right now. It feels like I'm melting away. Yesterday we lost power. It was a mess. All the lights were out. My girlfriend picked me up from work as we were driving. No lights, it was so dark. And the heat, no air conditioner, nothing, you know? Yes, I know that's bad.
So insane. So just sitting back to that interview, that was like 4 hours ago. It was 105-degree heat index. It was muggy. It was gross. It was suffocating. And then now we've got this breeze rolling through. Things cooled off dramatically. And we've got rain falling here in Pittsburgh with what feels like another potentially semi-severe wind event happening here in real time, Hallie. It's been insane this week, to put it lightly.
No joke. I'm going to let you and your crew go and kind of get situated there, Maggie, given how quickly this came on. Thank you very much for being there for us. Let me bring in Bill Cairns now. What's happening? I mean, is this because of the heat, the roller coaster weather ride that folks in Pittsburgh are on?
There's actually a severe thunderstorm about a half hour south of where Maggie is located, and the outflow winds from that, not the storm itself, just the wind outflow, just arrived in Pittsburgh as we went to her, and that's why it was so windy and gusty. It also will bring in cooler air and relief, too, so no one will be complaining after the wind dies off. It'll actually be a little cooler than it's been, and they'll take it in Pittsburgh because right now it's 92 degrees. Didn't quite get up towards your record today. The most impressive spot of all areas, New Hampshire. 96 in Manchester today, broke your record high by 2. And how about northern Maine, Caribou? Doesn't happen all that often where it gets into the 90s. Today, you tied your record high at 91. So this heat dome, which obviously we've been talking about last week, this week, it's going to shift to the south as we head towards this weekend. That's going to allow a little bit of cooler air for the northern half of the country, but we're still going to sizzle everywhere from the mid-Atlantic right back towards St. Louis. The heat's no signs of it letting up there. And as you mentioned, it's day after day. And of course, at night when it doesn't cool off, that's when we get the problems. This cold front is what will bring a little bit of relief. There'll be a few storms with it, so Omaha to Chicago, and then this front will try to sag down on Thursday. That's why we're going to get that relief in northern New England, also much of Michigan, but then it may retreat back to the north. Notice if you're in St. Louis, Indianapolis, Cincinnati, Lexington, Louisville, all the way back through the mid-Atlantic, no such luck for you, Hallie. The relief for those people are going to, it'll be after this upcoming weekend.
What's up with this tropical storm, too, Alberto, that is coming upon us now? When is the worst of it?
Yeah, we just saw the new update from the National Hurricane Center. It's still a potential storm. It's not quite organized yet to become Alberto. Regardless, the impacts are the same. We're going to have gusty winds at the coast. I don't think we're going to have any wind damage. We'll have a little bit of minor storm surge, and there's not a lot of high tide fluctuation on the Texas coast, so I'm not expecting it to be too problematic. But you can already see the huge rain shield that'll be moving into Houston, Corpus Christi, Victoria, down to Brownsville, South Padre Island as we go throughout later portions of tonight. It'll pour tonight into tomorrow, and then we'll be watching it making its way towards Tampico. The Hurricane Center does have it becoming Alberto tomorrow afternoon. It's more for the history books. It just gets a name. It will be our A-name storm. And then by about midnight heading into Thursday is when it will be moving on shore and then quickly weakening. And Hallie, as we've said, it's mostly just going to be worried about the heavy rainfall there, about 10 inches possible. And you can see, you can see the pictures there. The water's already pretty rough. There's already been a lot of red flags posted on the coastline there. So obviously rip currents are always a huge concern when we have storms like this too.
Man, you're juggling it. You got a lot going on. Bill Cairns, thank you very much. We'll check back in with you, I know, as things develop. Appreciate it. Let's bring you back here to Washington for more developing news, because the head of Boeing, in just the last few hours, is promising he's going to do something to change a culture that he calls far from perfect, as he gets questioned by a Senate panel over Boeing's complicated history of quality control issues. Listen to this.
Senator, I don't recognize any of the Boeing you described.
Really?
And I want to assure...
You don't recognize the Boeing that has airplanes falling out of the sky, that has had 2 Maxes crash, that has had pieces of doors fall out of the sky? You're the problem. And I just hope to God that you don't destroy this company before it can be saved.
Ooh, Josh Hallie, man, he's in it. That's Dave Calhoun there, right before his testimony. See, he turned around. That's because he's talking to families at the hearing today who had lost somebody they loved in the Ethiopian Airlines flight crash in 2019 when all 157 passengers died. Calhoun is apologizing here in that moment. All of this happening during his first appearance on the Hill since that Alaska Airlines incident. when a door panel, of course, blew out of that 737 MAX 9 in January. And it's also happening as the country's doing some more inspections after concerns that some of the fasteners on its undelivered planes, at least some of them, were not tightened properly. Tom Costello has been all over this story from the jump. He's joining us now. Okay, Tom, we've talked a lot, right, about the optical issues now for Boeing in addition to the structural issues. Is what Dave Calhoun did today enough?
Listen, he went up on Capitol Hill knowing he was going to be a piñata. They were going to beat the hell out of him, and he had really no recourse. Every time he tried to say anything, they interrupted. And you and I know that's the way it goes on Capitol Hill if you're public enemy number one, and today he was. The bottom line is he's promising things are going to get better. He's promising that, in fact, they've already made substantial changes. But what you saw with all those family members from Ethiopia and Indonesia, right? Those two crashes, 346 people died. Those family members are demanding accountability. What they want is for Boeing and Calhoun to be criminally charged. Take a listen to an interview I did with a young lady, Zipporah Kuria. She flew in from the UK. Her father died on the Ethiopian crash. He's a British citizen. He passed away. Take a listen to what she said.
I think people should be charged. I think that when people are not held accountable, you're setting a standard of what you can get away with. And I think this is the problem. When we don't learn from history, it keeps repeating itself. And that's why we're here month in, month out with new reports of Boeing happenings. The culture's rotten, and people need to learn that rotten fruit can be thrown out.
Prosecution has, the DOJ prosecutors have to decide within a few weeks whether they're going to prosecute or not.
And the backdrop to this, even just today, are new whistleblower allegations against the company. What's up there?
Yeah, a new whistleblower has come forward. His name is Sam Mohawk, and he claims that Boeing lost track on the 737 assembly line of pieces, of parts, a 300% increase in lost pieces. He fears that some of those ended up on planes when they shouldn't have, because these are substandard pieces. And in addition, he claims the company purposely tried to hide all of this from the FAA and literally would hide the pieces and then forge or get rid of the paperwork. So this is yet another whistleblower. And by the way, the FAA chief told me last week, we've got more whistleblowers. So we've got multiple whistleblowers coming forward now, allegations that are very serious for Boeing.
Tom Costello, thank you very much for all of that. Appreciate it.
You bet.
Elsewhere in Washington, some new pushback tonight after President Biden, in just the last couple of hours, officially rolled out a new immigration policy that he says will protect 500,000 undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens. With the Republican Speaker of the House late today pledging to fight this, saying he expects this to be challenged and struck down in the courts. Whole thing's an election year move for sure, with President Biden trying to balance a split screen, facing both calls for tougher border policy and calls for compassion. As the president touched on that a little bit earlier, listen to this.
I refuse to believe that to secure our border, we have to walk away from being an American. For that's generations have been renewed, revitalized, and refreshed by the talent, the skill, the hard work, the courage, and determination of immigrants coming to our country.
Today's announcement comes after the president took a step toward the other side of the immigration policy spectrum earlier this month, moving to really tighten the number of people coming over the overwhelmed southern border. And the White House says today's plan would shield about 500,000 spouses and 50,000 of their children from deportation. It would set up a pathway to a green card and eventually citizenship, and let some get work permits while they go through the process. Remember, these are people who entered the country illegally. The plan is sure to face challenges, as we've said here. NBC's Aaron Gilchrist is following this one for us. So, okay, here you have the president rolling out a unilateral immigration policy. We have seen before challenges to things like that then press pause on this policy. Is that the road this is headed down? What is the White House saying, and what's the real-world impact?
Well, that is the expectation, that we're going to see potentially some legal challenges to this executive order. The White House, though, for its part, is saying through the press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, today when she was asked about this, that they believe that they have firm legal footing with this executive action, and that they don't anticipate having a problem facing any potential legal challenges from this. We do expect that it will be the end of the summer before we actually see this executive order in action, something that people can actually utilize. The president made that point in his comments today from the White House. The Department of Homeland Security following up the president's remarks with a statement of its own, reiterating that this is something that would apply to people who have been in this country, non-citizens who've been in this country for 10 years or more as of yesterday. And again, by the end of this summer, they should be able to start using this process to seek out permanent residency without having to return to the country from which they came, which would normally be a part of the process. Even if you're married to a U.S. citizen, you would have to go back to the country you came from and then apply for that legal status, that permanent residency status. This is something that the president says is going to streamline the process for a lot of people to start living without the fear of being separated from their families and being able to seek work permits, for example, so that they can start contributing to the U.S. economy as well, Hallie.
It is impossible to ignore the political backdrop to this, Aaron. We are obviously in a presidential election year. The first debate is coming up just about a week and change from now. And we know that just behind and in addition to the economy and inflation, the biggest concern for voters, along with that, is immigration and border security. This is an issue where Democrats have been put on the back foot by Republicans. Some Dems have been able to fend off those attacks by essentially flipping the script and accusing Republicans of not doing enough in Congress. Help us understand this moment here for President Biden.
Well, we did hear the president put this issue, this problem, the fact that the immigration problem is not being solved in the lap of Republicans, particularly attributing that to former President Trump having slowed or stopped, really, a bill that was making its way through the Senate last year into the beginning of this year. The president said, though, that securing the border and finding a pathway to citizenship for migrants coming into this country, those are two things that can happen if people have the will to make those things happen. We did get a statement from former President Trump after the word of this policy, this executive order coming out we'll put up on the screen the statement we saw from President Trump saying Biden only cares about one thing, power, and that's why he's giving mass amnesty and citizenship to hundreds of thousands of illegals who he knows will ultimately vote for him and the open border Democrat Party. We saw a similar statement come from Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, as well. The president, for his part, did, of course, go after the former president in his remarks today, pointing out some of the language that he's used to describe immigrants, derogatory language that he's used, and policies that he said were designed to tear families apart. President Biden, of course, aware that the Latino community is diverse and large in this country, and it's one that he's been trying to speak to through his campaign, and didn't avoid that today in the remarks that he made officially from the White House, Hallie.
Aaron Gilchrist live for us there outside the White House. Aaron, thank you. Overseas now, Russia's president is in North Korea tonight, getting there just a few hours ago for a very rare visit, the first in a generation. Look at this, Vladimir Putin here getting off the plane in Pyongyang. There he is, shaking hands, and then a little embrace with Kim Jong-un on the tarmac. The relationship between these two authoritarian leaders has gotten cozier lately, with North Korea allegedly giving Russia some important military support for Putin's war with Ukraine. And with new tensions in the region, too, after South Korea's military fired warning shots when soldiers from the north briefly crossed the border, that DMZ between the two countries. Courtney Cuby is joining us now. So here we have the optics of this moment there, right, on the tarmac that is fascinating to see, with Putin and Kim Jong-un coming together here. And here in the U.S., some administration officials concerned about that. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I mean, you saw a pretty friendly greeting there, right? Hugging one another.
Oh, yeah.
And Hallie, I mean, you mentioned that this is the first time the two men have met in more than 2 decades, but it's not the first time they've met even recently. So back in September, they met in Russia. And why that's critical is because since then, North Korea has sent millions of rounds of ammunition to Russia that's been used in Ukraine. We're talking about millions of artillery shells and missiles that have been having an impact on the battlefield. Remember, Ukraine, there have been days where Russia and Ukraine have exchanged 10,000 rounds per side. So when you're talking about that volume of fire, when they are getting millions of rounds from somewhere, that's going to make a difference in what has become, in some cases, really a war of ammunition. But why U.S. administration officials are concerned about this growing relationship is not just that transfer of ammunition and weapons from North Korea to Russia, but what Russia may be giving back to North Korea. They're looking at the possibility that could include technology, and they're concerned about how that could advance some of North Korea's systems, Hallie.
Court, what else do we know about this issue, this incident, I should say, at the DMZ, where the South fired off those warning shots? What's up there?
So it seems as if this was a mistake right now, but it's not the first time it's happened even this month, Hallie. That's what's concerning, and it doesn't come in a vacuum. So as you saw in those pictures in the video, it's a pretty dense area there along the demarcation line. These were apparently, according to South Korea, North Korean soldiers who were doing construction. They may have just accidentally crossed when when South Korea started firing off warning shots and blaring alarms. The soldiers quickly retreated and didn't fire back. So again, it appears as if this may have been a mistake just given the dense terrain there. But again, this being the second time it's happened this month, it's definitely raising some eyebrows, Hallie.
Courtney Kuby live for us here in Washington. Court, thank you. To tonight's Original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching. And this one, it has a lot of folks pretty fired up. Big picture here. You have the White House and some in Congress who want to revitalize America's rail system and give billions of dollars for high-speed projects like ones between California and Nevada, L.A., San Francisco, upgrades in Virginia, North Carolina, Chicago, etc. But everything you see right there, years away. And the reality on the ground right now, more torturous delays, with daily commuters stuck today, again, heading from New Jersey into New York City. Just the latest mess at this key bottleneck that more than 500,000 people ride through every day. Here's Yasmin Vasugian.
Nightmare today for New Jersey commuters as Amtrak and New Jersey Transit trains were delayed, then diverted again.
This is really frustrating, and I think NJ Transit should really do something about it.
A disabled train and overhead wire issue inside the tunnel connecting New Jersey to New York had commuters diverted to Hoboken, leaving them stuck on the opposite side of the river.
The 8th largest economy in the world, and you can't get people to and from in a consistent manner without hours-long delays. So it's a real economic problem.
Amtrak telling NBC News crews worked quickly to resolve the issue, and it's working with its partners at NJT to investigate the cause. On May 21st, almost the identical issue, with riders experiencing long delays and diversions. The governor, Phil Murphy, outraged over the latest example of crumbling infrastructure impacting his state, sending a letter to Amtrak calling for immediate improvements.
You start out your day already going to work, and it creates this extra stress on you. Every day I say to my husband, what is the adventure on New Jersey Transit today?
New Jersey Transit not responding to our request for comment, but highlighting on its website that 89.5% of its trains are on time. And it comes just weeks before a 15% fare hike scheduled to kick in July 1st. A huge part of the problem is New Jersey Transit, a regional commuter system transporting almost 650,000 people every weekday, sharing a tunnel under the Hudson River with Amtrak's Northeast Corridor, which it touts as the nation's most traveled railroad.
It breaks down. And it has delays, and it's slow. I mean, even on a normal day, a 35-minute commute is really 50 minutes, right? And that's got to stop. And we're doing the work and spending the money and doing the construction to make it stop, but it is going to take some time.
Stephen Sigmund with the Gateway Development Commission working on an expansion project to build another tunnel to alleviate congestion, saying the build will cost $16 billion and will not be completed until 2035.
This has been a project that's 30 years in the making, and it has been stopped too many times because of politics, frankly.
There was a planned earlier expansion quashed by then New Jersey Governor Chris Christie in 2010, citing ballooning costs. New Jersey's current governor slamming that decision on Meet the Press just last year.
The biggest policy mistake of the past 50 years in New Jersey was his decision to cancel the predecessor to this project.
We reached out to Murphy's office for comment on today's delays, but did not hear back. Then in 2020, New York Governor Cuomo accused then President Trump of playing politics when he yanked funding on the tunnel expansion. But the administration said, quote, it did not meet the requirements in law. Either way, the build was set back even further.
You just want to get home. You want to get home to your kids. You want to get home to walk your dogs.
Now commuters here in New York and New Jersey caught up in a political infrastructure nightmare with real consequences in one of the biggest cities in the world.
Yasmin is joining us now from just outside Penn Station in New York. And Yas, lest anybody who's not watching this inside New York think that this is only a local news story, there is a national piece to this that involves taxpayer dollars.
There is. So we talked about the Gateway Project, right? You just heard about that, costing $16 billion. $12 billion of that is federal funding, federal aid. $4 billion is in loans. So folks at home, right, that don't live in New York, New Jersey area, they're asking the question of why. Why $12 billion of federal funds is actually being given to this expansion. It's because 20%, Hal, right, of the GDP of this nation comes from this city. It comes from New York City. It comes from commuters walking through the very doors behind me, right? People are commodities. People are part of this economy. Just one little tidbit, Hal, I want to leave you with when it comes to some of these delays that we were taking a look at. Back in 2022, Amtrak registering over 100,000 plus hours of delay, Hal. Compare that to Japan, who registers their delays by minute. So think about how far off we are when it comes to the infrastructure in one of the wealthiest cities in the world.
Yasmin Vasugian, boy, get ready for the beat that you're now on here for the show, the transportation beat, if you will. Thanks, Yas. Appreciate it. Oh, you've heard about, but do you know the latest here? Justin Timberlake arrested on that DWI charge in the Hamptons. What he's telling police he was drinking. More on that as we take you to the Hamptons. Plus, the big state pushing to restrict smartphones in schools. What it looks like for a whole bunch of students. Could it be a blueprint? Team USA's uniforms for the Olympics opening and closing ceremonies now revealed. We've got your fit check in just a sec. But first, right as we were coming on the air, we're getting our first look at a mugshot that is probably, honestly, blowing up your group chats. This is it, Justin Timberlake. His mugshot taken right after he got arrested on a DWI charge at the Hamptons on Long Island in New York. This is a picture of him leaving court earlier from the New York Post. Local police pulled him over last night after he allegedly blew past a stop sign. Police in a court complaint describing the superstar as having bloodshot and glassy eyes with his breath smelling, I'm quoting, of an odor of alcoholic beverage. Timberlake telling police, I had one martini and I followed my friends home. It's all happening as he's on tour right now here in the U.S. His next show, just a few days from now, is set for this Friday in Chicago. Aaron McLaughlin is live for us in Sag Harbor, New York, where this all went down. Danny Savalos has our legal breakdown. Aaron, let me start with you. What else do we know about the circumstances here?
Well, Hallie, a source close to Timberlake says that it was just after midnight he had had dinner at a nearby American hotel, which is frequented by celebrities and locals alike. He had gotten into a car. He was driving to a friend's house. According to the police report, as you mentioned, he drove through a stop sign without stopping. He swerved twice. He was stopped by police as a result. According to the police report, the officer writing his eyes were bloodshot and glassy. A strong odor of an alcoholic beverage was emanating from his breath. He had slowed speech and he performed poorly on all standardized field sobriety tests. They took him to the police station behind me where he spent the night. He had a court appearance this morning. He pleaded not guilty to DWI charges, and his next court date is scheduled for the end of July, Hallie.
There's apparently body cam footage, Aaron. We haven't seen it yet, right?
Yeah, that footage has not been released.
Okay.
The only thing authorities have released so far is that mugshot. Yeah.
You know, there's the Hamptons, like this area where you are, no stranger to celebrities in the summer, like to say the least here. But this is still a pretty interesting moment, and I am struck by the fact that that you ran into somebody pretty famous to ask them about it all. Talk us through it.
Yeah, we did. We did at the very same hotel that Justin Timberlake had dinner at last night. We saw Billy Joel, the legendary singer, having lunch there today. We asked him for his reaction to news of Timberlake's arrest. This is what he had to say.
I don't really know him that much, so I have no comment. Judge not, lest ye be judged.
Now, other locals, residents of the area, had much more to say, much stronger opinions on the arrest. Take a listen.
Devastated.
Devastated is a strong word.
I'm a big JT fan, so it hurts.
Oh, boy. Shame on him. That's all I'm going to say.
He could definitely get like an Uber. Like, he has a lot of money. Like,
it's disappointing, but it happens far too often.
Residents we've been speaking to say this kind of thing actually happens all the time, especially tourists coming to towns such as Sag Harbor, and they're having fun and they're making unnecessary changes to the police response, according to residents that we've been talking to. Hallie.
Aaron, live for us there in Sag Harbor. Thanks. Dan, let me go to you. Why would police hold him overnight? Is that typical, especially in a high-profile case like this?
It's typical. Most DUIs happen at night, and you got to get before a judge, and judges go to bed at 10 o'clock, so no chance to see a judge. You're going to be there overnight. You get your first appearance, and then you usually get out of there unless you have a hold for some other case, but that's not Justin Timberlake. He gets out in the morning or as soon as the judge gets to court. But in terms of this case, this really is two separate kinds of cases. He's going to get hit with the DWI. He's also going to get hit with the refusal, because New York's one of those states in which all drivers impliedly consent to take these chemical tests. And the key is calling it a chemical test, not a breath test. A breath test in New York is a little portable thing that you get at Radio Shack that the cops have in their car. They ask you to take it. It's not admissible. It just gives them yay or nay the presence of alcohol. The chemical test can be the breath test. So it appears so far that he refused the formal chemical test, also known as the breathalyzer, the intoxilizer, all of these machines that they use to test your BAC.
Danny Savalos, thank you very much. More to watch on that one as it develops. Appreciate it. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, we now know the cause of death for University of Missouri student Riley Strain, whose body was found in a Tennessee river a few months ago. The autopsy report says he died from intoxication and drowning, with the manner cited as accidental. You remember his friends last saw him leaving Luke Bryan's Nashville bar after he was asked to leave by workers there. Number 2, NVIDIA is now the most valuable public company in the world. You know this company. It makes those chips used to power AI. Its stock went up more than 3.5% today, meaning its market cap is like $3.3 trillion, more than Microsoft. NVIDIA had already passed Apple earlier this month. Its shares are up 170% on the year. Number 3, Stellantis recalling more than 1 million cars in North America over a problem with rear-view cameras. Apparently, a software glitch is causing them to malfunction, potentially, obviously, raising the risk you could get into a crash. We're talking cars like recent models of the Jeep Compass, the Grand Cherokee, Ram ProMaster, Chrysler Pacifica, etc. The company says the software has already been updated in more than 700,000 cars, and fortunately, they're not aware of anybody getting hurt because of it. Number 4. The new Team USA looks for the Olympics opening and closing ceremonies. Here they are: tailored blazers, racer-style jackets, blue jeans. It's the brands. It's Ralph Lauren's 9th time designing Team USA's opening uniforms. Number 5, Pizza Hut. Rolling out a major menu revamp. The chain is introducing Chicago Tavern-style pizza, thin crust, not thick crust, not deep dish. It's going to have a bunch of toppings, including pesto sauce, chicken sausage, caramelized onions, etc. So you get a little everything on this show. We got you covered on all your news, including, when we come back, what led up to a drive-through dispute that ended with a McDonald's worker pulling a gun. Plus, bills like Florida's so-called Don't Say Gay law spreading kind of quietly to some other states. How a grassroots group is fighting back. NBC News covers hundreds of stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our bureau teams have done it for you. This is what they tell us is going down in their regions in a segment we call The Local. Out of our Western Bureau, a 19-year-old man's in custody after a deadly stabbing at University of Southern California's Greek Row. Police say there was some kind of a fight between that man and somebody else who was apparently breaking into cars outside a frat house. The victim was pronounced dead at the scene. The suspect was booked on suspicion of murder and is being held on $2 million bond. Out of our Southern Bureau news surveillance video, look at this. Pretty tense scene at a drive-thru in Florida at a McDonald's. Police say it went down like this. Customers told a worker they thought their order was wrong. They argued. The worker throws a drink when they're leaving. 2 people then get out of the car, open the drive-thru window, throwing the drinks back. Then the worker apparently gets a gun, leaves the building, fires at the customers in the car as they leave the parking lot. Nobody was hurt. The worker was arrested. Also about our Southern Bureau, more than 100 scholarships across Texas are reportedly being put on hold or changed because of a new law there that bans DEI programs at public universities, according to documents obtained by the Dallas Morning News. It went into effect at the beginning of this year. To California now, where the governor today says he wants to pass laws to really restrict how kids can use their phones during the school day. With Governor Gavin Newsom's announcement coming as the LA Unified School District also today voted to ban phones and social media for students starting in the second half of the next school year. A school board member saying some other places have seen really positive results from cell bans. Things like happier kids, more interactions between students, better grades. All of it, of course, coming on the heels of that op-ed by the Surgeon General calling for Congress to require warning labels on social media apps. Morgan Chesky is joining us now. It's not a new thing that Governor Newsom's warning about the dangers of what happens online for kids, but this is an interesting and big move. We've seen it sort of on a school-by-school basis, but for the LA Unified School District to do this, huge school district, for the state to consider this, pretty significant.
Yeah, Hallie, absolutely. And you mentioned that school-by-school basis. Governor Newsom would be the first to say that it was because of legislation that he passed back in 2019 that California school districts are able to take on this issue on a district-by-district basis, as we've seen the LA School District do just today. More than 400,000 students, the second largest district in the nation, now taking on the issue of phones in the classroom. It remains to be seen, Hallie, how the district will decide how exactly to implement this, how to enforce this, what the policies will look like when they go into effect in January of 2025. But this is part of an ongoing conversation now following, as you mentioned, the Solicitor General's warning that these could pose significant issues, whether it be attention to studies, whether it be the growing number of students diagnosed with depression or anxiety. This is all now moving forward in a direction that is certainly being celebrated by Governor Newsom. And he says he looks forward to adding additional legislation to kind of enforce this in an even broader way than the LA district may be doing here. Very interesting and important to note here, Hallie, that last year, Florida was the first state in the country to place an all-out ban on cell phones during instructional time in the classroom here. Hallie?
Morgan Chesky live for us there in L.A. Morgan, thank you. Speaking of Florida, in the couple of years since it passed its controversial Don't Say Gay law, it's been facing backlash nationally over that decision. Even more states have passed their own version, these copycat laws. You might not have heard about them because a lot of that backlash is coming at a super local level, spurred on by groups of parents and grassroots organizers. Our Maura Barrett traveled to North Carolina, where hundreds have joined on to a federal complaint against a state law that they say fails to protect trans kids.
It was the Florida fight over schools that captivated the nation. Republicans pushing through the parental rights and education law, dubbed Don't Say Gay by opponents. Now, 2 years later, several states swiftly and without much fanfare passed their own laws replicating Florida as part of a flurry of anti-LGBTQ bills introduced in red state houses. The laws across 11 states limit instruction around sexual orientation or gender identity in schools.
This legislation codifies the rights of parents and guardians and creates a system for remedies for parents wishing to address concerns.
In North Carolina, it goes a step further, including a provision that requires teachers to notify parents of pronoun changes, which advocates say effectively outs trans students, something that worries 17-year-old Milo, who is trans.
I have multiple friends who, if their parents found out that they were trans, they would probably get kicked out of their house.
Experts contrast the lack of national attention with the widespread backlash to the state's trans bathroom bill in 2016, which was later repealed.
And that's why we're seeing these laws happen in a dozen states or 20 states at once, because half the country can't be boycotted.
Do you worry that it indicates a sense of acceptance of these types of laws?
We're seeing parents get a lot more politically engaged.
Love is love. Stacey Staggs is one of those parents.
This law was designed to allow hate and anger and to discriminate against people for things they don't have any control over.
She says her children's school district is in overcompliance of the law, canceling the subscription to an entire online library database of tens of thousands of books over just a handful of titles in question. The state's Department of Public Instruction, which oversees schools, did not address the book bans, but noted the legislation advises educators against alerting parents about a name or pronoun change if it could result in abuse or neglect.
How concerned are you about the scope of your child's education?
It keeps me up at night. I mean, we've seen more instances of kids calling each other names, physical fights, intimidation and bullying.
Some of those instances highlighted in a 113-page Title IX federal complaint that Stagg, alongside dozens of students, parents, and teachers, gave testimony for, challenging the state law. As they wait for the review, trans students like Noah and Milo want to show lawmakers that students like them aren't a threat, but the laws in place are.
This is like the time in your life where like you sort of figure out who you are. And so without having like the safety or like feeling kind of threatened by these new laws is like not good.
Things are kind of awful right now, but the best thing we can do is just keep living.
As the conservative right employs this national effort with Moms for Liberty, for example, the opposing grassroots groups are also emerging. The Campaign for Southern Equality, for example, has templates on its website for school districts that are looking to also file Title IX complaints. They also have speakers guides for people who are looking to speak up at their school board meetings. So it's kind of a training in a way to fight back against the culture wars. Now, I should note, I did reach out to the Republican lawmakers who introduced the original bill, but did not hear back. Hallie?
Our thanks to Maura Barrett for that reporting. Coming up, former President Trump rallying in a key swing state, but is he planning to stay there for his own convention or snub it? We're live in Wisconsin next. Just the last couple of minutes, former President Trump wrapping up a rally in a key battleground state, the state of Wisconsin, just a few days after he reportedly bashed the state's biggest city and this year's RNC host, talking about Milwaukee, telling a group of House Republicans it was a, quote, horrible place, according to one source in the room, although his campaign later worked quickly to clarify, as did the former president, that he was referring specifically to the crime rates there and to alleged voter fraud. All of it obviously important in this key battleground. Somebody's going to win it, and whoever does is going to have a better shot at winning the White House here. President Biden won it by 20,000 votes. Only 20,000 votes, half a percentage point back in 2020. And the most recent statewide polls show that it is neck and neck, effectively deadlocked now between President Biden and former President Trump. NBC's Shaq Brewster is there in Racine, Wisconsin, where the rally, I understand, Shaq, is this a live look? I'm going to ask my control room, I think is still happening. Oh, that's the music. That's the wrap-up music.
He's still on
Take
stage,
it away,
but
friend.
he just finished speaking.
Because what's so interesting here is this state is going to be critically important, and there's been like a mini news cycle of drama around whether Donald Trump today would actually stay in Wisconsin or not for his convention. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I think I'll start with what he said when he started his speech, Hallie, in which he said, "I love Milwaukee." It was one of the first things that came out of his mouth, and why he was doing that was to kind of get back and catch up to some reporting that's been out there. One, you know his comments that he was reported saying when he was talking to House Republicans, calling Milwaukee, the city that's hosting his nominating convention, horrible. Well, he denied that he's made those comments. And then there was a report that came out just a couple of hours ago from a local Chicago station saying that he was planning to spend the night, instead of in Milwaukee, in Chicago, where he has a hotel property. Well, he told our affiliate earlier today that that is not true. He said that he'll be staying and sleeping in Milwaukee, but he seems to be trying to make up some ground or clear the air a little bit, trying to say that he loves Milwaukee, even though he's not in Milwaukee, but we're about 25 minutes away from the city.
So there's that. There's also, as we look ahead, obviously, to the election, we talked about the role that Wisconsin will almost certainly play. This is his first trip there since his conviction. Any indication that that is having an impact one way or the other? He talked about it a bit at the rally. I want to play that real quick.
Yeah.
You know, Alphonse Capone was indicted less than Trump. I'd never heard the word indictment, and then all of a sudden, all that's coming from all different angles at me, all caused by Biden and his thugs.
Of course, the former president has tried to blame the Biden administration for that felony conviction that happened, of course, in a state legal proceeding. I'm looking at this now, Shaq, forgive me, on the left side of the screen. It looks like he is off the stage at this point. What are you hearing from folks there?
Well, you know, it's something that I've been talking to folks here a lot about multiple times. There was first back the night of the conviction where I went up to Kenosha and talked to a range of voters, and the biggest sense that I got was that, no, this was not something that was going to determine the vote, even if they were paying attention to it. But when I talked to folks here today, even if I didn't bring it up, it was something that Trump supporters told me they were watching and was animating for them. Listen to what they told me directly.
I think it's going to actually strengthen him. I think they made a mistake by doing that.
Why do you say that?
Because it's going to embolden his base, and then it's going to bring other people who see it's clearly was a sham.
He's been convicted on a false jury and trial, but he didn't do any of those things in my books.
And who cares who he had sex with before he was president?
It was something that was animating for his supporters when you look at fundraising. But when you listen to what Democrats here in the state brought up in a counter-programming press conference earlier today, they didn't bring up his trial. Instead, they were talking about manufacturing and the economy. I think it's a hint for what even Democrats here think will be a more effective line of messaging against former President Trump, Hallie.
Shaq Brewster, thank you very much. Live first there in Wisconsin. Still to come 1 year exactly to the day after that Titan submersible disaster. We're looking at what could be the next trip to the Titanic wreck. Stay with us. Today marks exactly 1 year since the OceanGate Titan submersible imploded during that dive to the wreck of the Titanic, killing all 5 people on board. I'm sure you remember that story, with the race against time to look for any potential survivors, captivating the country. It was horrifying, but despite the tragedy, one billionaire explorer is promising to try again and prove that deep-sea adventures can be done right. Rahima Ellis has the story.
The OceanGate submersible disaster still seared in our memory, and now a billionaire explorer is planning to go back to the wreck of the Titanic, hoping to prove that deep-sea exploration can be safe, a major challenge after a very public disaster. On the morning of June 18, 2023, OceanGate's Titan submersible began its voyage to the bottom of the Atlantic, more than 12,000 feet below the surface, to visit the Titanic. On board was OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush, along with 4 other passengers. But about 3 hours into its descent, the vessel lost contact with its support ship. Almost 8 hours passed until OceanGate notified authorities, according to the U.S. Coast Guard, and the search was on.
Breaking news this hour, a massive search and rescue mission is underway in the North Atlantic.
For the next 3 days, the world watched with bated breath as ships, subs, and aircraft from several countries scoured the ocean surface and scanned the sea floor.
Right now, there are roughly 16 hours worth of oxygen left on board.
But what we didn't know that first day, on the day the Titan disappeared, the U.S. Navy detected a sound, quote, consistent with an implosion or explosion, but not definitive, located near where the sub went missing. That information passed on to the Coast Guard, but not reported publicly. But it meant that Titan's occupants likely died instantly under the immense crushing pressure of the deep sea. On the 4th day of the search, a robotic vessel found several shattered pieces of the Titan's hull, confirming the fate of all on board.
Yes, this was a terrible disaster, but in our opinion, an avoidable one.
Ohio billionaire Larry Connor, at 74, is a seasoned explorer. In 2022, he piloted an Axiom rocket to the International Space Station and even dived in a submersible to the Mariana Trench. Now he's partnering with Triton Submarines to lead a new manned mission to the Titanic in a custom-built submersible.
And if you're asking, are we confident we can do it safely? The answer is yes.
In an interview with the Today Show, Connor says the sub will be thoroughly tested and built to stringent safety standards.
We can demonstrate worldwide that this type of exploration and submersible is safe.
After the disaster, OceanGate faced massive criticism for what many experts saw as an unorthodox and improperly tested design. OceanGate suspended all exploration and commercial operations.
Rahima is joining us now. Let's talk timeline, Rahima. When is this next exploration planned for?
They're saying in about 2 years from now. Larry Connor says it'll be the summer of 2026. And he says this vessel will also feature an experimental design with an acrylic bubble, giving them a 320 degrees of viewing of that wreckage of the Titanic. Excuse me. But he says they're going to take multiple steps and have multiple certifications. And if any point along the line there are doubts, in his words, he says this project is over. But he feels confident that they can get the safety certifications that they need to get down safely and back up again. Hallie?
Rahema Ellis, thank you very much for that reporting. That does it for us for this hour. We've got more coverage picking up right now. We're coming on the air with a weather danger zone, wildfires out of control, a whole town evacuated, record early heat, and as if that weren't enough, a potential tropical storm. Our reporters are live in some of the hardest hit spots. Plus, an apology from Boeing's CEO on Capitol Hill. What he's telling families who lost people they loved in a deadly crash, and the changes he's planning to a culture he calls far from perfect. Then President Biden's balancing act on immigration, the people he's hoping to protect, the political pushback he's now facing tonight. And we'll have former President Trump's reaction that's come in just as we've been on the air. Then postcards from the edge as America's busiest rail line melts down. We are on the train in the mess to explain why it may not get better quickly, even with fare hikes. That's in our original. Plus, the thing in all your group chats, and we've got new details on it, what Justin Timberlake tells police he was drinking before that DWI arrest in the Hamptons, as we get the first look at his mugshot. That's later in the show. Hey, I'm Hallie, and tonight we've got breaking news. In some parts of the country, it has never been this hot this early, with millions of Americans broiling in temperatures of more than 100 degrees. Dangerous stuff here, and it's not even the official start of summer yet. You've got heat advisories and warnings in effect from Texas to Maine through at least Friday, with a bunch of cities set to see more than 5 straight days over 90. We're talking Cincy, Pittsburgh, here in D.C. Look at Chicago. Their historic heat wave could bring the hottest stretch of nights for the city in 91 years. Texas scorched, even as they're also prepping for the first big tropical storm of the season. Flood watches are in place for millions of people there. And in Pennsylvania, storms slamming the area overnight, leaving thousands without power. You see some of the damage. All of it, as those wildfires out west just keep on spreading. Look at this, these huge clouds of smoke. You see those orange flames there in New Mexico, with this town telling people, get out. That you got to leave and you got to do it now. In Southern California, you see it here. L.A. County battling the state's biggest wildfire of the year. It's tough to fight because of where it's burning in spots that are tough to reach, with homes in danger, power lines, dams, oil pipelines. Even drivers are being warned that all this smoke could make it really hard to see on the freeways. Our team is covering this from every angle. Reporters in the heat, among the fires, and looking ahead to what's next. I want to start with Steve Patterson, who's live for us in California. Whole town evacuated. Steve, what's the latest in New Mexico and how folks are handling it?
Yeah, we have to start in New Mexico because we're hearing from the governor. This could be a very serious situation. We already know it is, but maybe more serious than we thought. A state of emergency just declared in the last few hours. The governor releasing new information that up to 500 structures were damaged. And we're not just talking about one fire. I want to make this clear. These are 2 fires that are centering on one town on tribal land, so resources very limited. It's kind of in the middle of nowhere. This is a town of about 8,000 people. They told people this morning to get the heck out of town as soon as they can. So hopefully those evacuations are in place. People listen to them. But the destructive force of not 1, the South Fork fire, but 2, the Salt fire, 20,000 acres in total in almost a pincer formation around one town. The governor, set to speak any moment, could have an update on maybe people that are hurt, maybe more structures that are damaged, maybe homes that are uprooted. That is a very serious situation. It's far from the only fire out west. Of course, there are dozens of major fires burning across the region. There are maybe 6 to 10 in California alone that firefighters are now battling on the front lines with. I'm standing in one. This is the post-fire. The aftermath is behind me, but really this damage, devastation, burn scars spread everywhere. The good news, they're pushing it away from the major interstate. They're pushing it away from the major infrastructure that you mentioned. Doesn't mean there still isn't a threat. Of course there is, because the winds are still shifting. I can feel them picking up right now. This is hampering the firefighter effort, which is really now focused inside of the major forest, which is in the area. So the Forest Service going in, it's very difficult to get to, though, and especially complicated with the winds that continue to pick up as the evening progresses. progresses, that is the major difficulty that firefighters have dealt with, and that is something that they're going to have to deal with as these fires continue to burn really across the region and across the state. Hallie?
Steve Patterson live for us there in California. Steve, thank you very much. Obviously, there is so much going on from coast to coast. You've seen the situation out west. We now have more from Maggie Vespa, who's in Pittsburgh for us with the heat. And what people are watching, of course, is the thermometer, because it is, I mean, is that breeze helpful at all, or is it just so hot and gross?
I mean, calling it a breeze, though, is a massive understatement. Hallie, this is insane. This just picked up in the last, 90 seconds, and this speaks to how just, frankly, erratic this entire week has been. We have crews holding onto our lights, holding onto our camera, holding onto our audio here over here. I mean, the camera's shaking, right, and we just have raindrops starting to fall as well. This seems like a collision of the heat wave that we've had here in kind of the Midwest and across the East Coast, and then also we had storms rolling through parts of the Midwest as well. So it has just been a roller coaster of a week. Earlier today was absolutely boiling. What didn't help, kind of sort of keeping in the theme with what's happening right now, we had storms roll through here last night. It knocked out power for a lot of people, so many didn't have air conditioning overnight. Listen to what this man said earlier.
It's so hot, I am baking right now. It feels like I'm melting away. Yesterday we lost power. It was a mess. All the lights were out. My girlfriend picked me up from work as we were driving. No lights, it was so dark. And the heat, no air conditioner or nothing, you know? Yes, I know that's bad.
So insane. So just to think back to that interview, that was like 4 hours ago. It was 105-degree heat index. It was muggy. It was gross. It was suffocating. And then now we've got this breeze rolling through. Things cooled off dramatically. And we've got rain falling here in Pittsburgh with what feels like another potentially semi-severe wind event happening here in real time, Hallie. It's been insane this week, to put it lightly.
No joke. I'm going to let you and your crew go and kind of get situated there, Maggie, given how quickly this came on. Thank you very much for being there for us. Bill Cairns is joining us now. I mean, that was wild to see with Maggie there. And all across the country, we're seeing our reporters in the heat and the rain and the wind and the fires, et cetera.
Yeah, early summer extremes. And Maggie, by the way, some few people get lucky and you get some outflow, some cool air from thunderstorms that can cool you off, or maybe rain if you're fortunate. And that's what the Pittsburgh area had. So they were extremely hot. Now they got a little bit of a break. I mean, it's only going to cool down from, like 104 feels like the 92, but that's better than nothing. So we still have a couple areas under extreme heat warnings, and that's the higher level than heat advisory. It includes Detroit, Fort Wayne, Indiana, Pittsburgh. And then how about this? From southern New Hampshire around Manchester to Laconia, all the way back up through Augusta and Bangor, Maine. They are expecting a very warm night tonight and exceptionally hot tomorrow. So here's the current heat index, and the one that really jumps out at you, the same city that set a record high yesterday, Syracuse. Syracuse of New York is usually one of the snowiest cities in the entire country. Usually they're in a race with like Buffalo or Caribou or Marquette, Michigan. They feel like 104. That's warmer than anywhere on the map. I know. Albany, New York, 98. Burlington, 97. So that's where you have people that don't have air conditioning, and that's where it gets very dangerous, especially as we go throughout the overnight. So how about tomorrow? Syracuse, chance for another record high, 97. Similar heat index. Boston, 92. New York, 91. So this is doable. That's kind of like typical summer heat. But when you talk about Bangor, Maine at 96 degrees, that's close to the hottest they've ever been in June. And then as we head towards Thursday, starting to warm up a little bit, especially Philly up to 94, Providence 92. You got to get the same gist of it. It doesn't look like too many spots are going to hit 100, maybe an isolated spot outside of Boston or New Hampshire. And then as we head towards this weekend, it just kind of sizzles and settles. Friday, through Saturday, Sunday, Philly, New York, Baltimore, really no relief. The humidity jumps up. St. Louis, by the way, has a chance of hitting 100 as we go into the weekend, too, especially on Saturday. So there's not a lot of relief heading anyone's way.
Did you workshop that, sizzles and settles?
No, that was catchy. Just inspirationally spontaneous.
You're unreal, man. Real quick before I let you go, tropical storm down south. How big of a deal is that one? It's not named yet, right?
We never like to say this isn't going to be a big deal until it's completely over with, because you never know. But this one does not look like the wind or the water. In other words, the storm surge is going to be much of anything. It looks like it'll be just the rain, and it depends on how much. Now, sometimes tropical systems can actually be good. We've got drought conditions from about Corpus Christi southwards. We actually could use the rain. I'm sure the ranchers would love some rain. You just don't want to get too much at one time. So as we take this into Alberto tomorrow afternoon, makes landfall somewhere between Brownsville and Tampico. Mexico. This is northern Mexico. It does look like there will be enough heavy rain. We do have a flood watch in effect for southern portions of Texas, roughly Houston southwards. But the bullseye appears to be somewhere near Corpus Christi. Again, they're under a moderate drought, but they don't need 7 to 10 inches in about 2 days. Even with that amount, they would get some isolated flooding.
All right, you'll watch that. Bill Cairns, our weather wordplay whiz. Thanks so much for being with us. Appreciate it. Let's take you here to Washington here. We've got more developing news. The head of Boeing promising in just the last few hours he is doing something, or trying to change a culture he calls far from perfect, as he gets questioned by a Senate panel over Boeing's complicated history of quality control issues. Listen.
Senator, I don't recognize any of the Boeing you described.
Really?
And I want to assure...
You don't recognize the Boeing that has airplanes falling out of the sky, that has had 2 Maxes crash, that has had pieces of doors fall out of the sky? You're the problem. And I just hope to God that you don't destroy this company before it can be saved.
All of this as a whistleblower reveals new allegations against Calhoun and Boeing. And in this moment here, you see Boeing standing up, turning around, and apologizing to some of the people at that hearing, family members of victims of the Ethiopian Airlines flight crash in 2019, where all 157 passengers died. This is Calhoun's first appearance on the Hill since that Alaska Airlines incident, when a door panel blew out of a 737 MAX 9 back in January. It's also happening, of course, as we're hearing more about those claims. Tom Costello is joining us now with more. Okay, Tom, we've talked a lot, right, about the optical issues now for Boeing, in addition to the structural issues. Is what Dave Calhoun did today enough?
Listen, he went up on Capitol Hill knowing he was going to be a piñata. They were going to beat the hell out of him, and he had really no recourse. Every time he tried to say anything, they interrupted. And you and I know that's the way it goes on Capitol Hill if you're public enemy number one, and today he was. The bottom line is he's promising things are going to get better. He's promising that, in fact, they've already made substantial changes. But what you saw with all those family members from Ethiopia and Indonesia, right? Those 2 crashes, 346 people died. Those family members are demanding accountability. What they want is for Boeing and Calhoun to be criminally charged. Take a listen to an interview I did with a young lady, Zipporah Kuria. She flew in from the UK. Her father died on the Ethiopian crash. He's a British citizen. He passed away. Take a listen to what she said.
I think people should be charged. I think that when people are not held accountable, you're setting a standard of what you can get away with. And I think this is the problem. When we don't learn from history, it keeps repeating itself. And that's why we're here month in, month out with new reports of Boeing happenings. The culture is rotten, and people need to learn that rotten fruit can be thrown out.
Prosecution has, the DOJ prosecutors have to decide within a few weeks whether they're going to prosecute or not.
And the backdrop to this, even just today, are new whistleblower allegations against the company. What's up there?
A new whistleblower has come forward. His name is Sam Mohawk, and he claims that Boeing lost track on the 737 assembly line of pieces, of parts, a 300% increase in lost pieces. He fears that some of those ended up on planes when they shouldn't have, because these are substandard pieces. And in addition, he claims the company purposely tried to hide all of this from the FAA and literally would hide the pieces and then forge or get rid of the paperwork. So this is yet another whistleblower. And by the way, the FAA chief told me last week, we've got more whistleblowers. So we've got multiple whistleblowers coming forward now, allegations that are very serious for Boeing.
Tom Costello, thank you very much for all of that. Appreciate it. Elsewhere in Washington, new pushback tonight after President Biden, in just the last few hours, officially rolled out that new immigration policy that he says will protect 500,000 undocumented spouses of U.S. citizens. But the Republican Speaker of the House pledging to fight this, saying he expects it'll be challenged and struck down in court. Whole thing's an election year move for sure, with the president trying to balance this split screen, facing both demands for tougher border policy and calls for compassion on the border. President Biden touching on that a bit earlier. Listen.
I refuse to believe that to secure our border, we have to walk away from being an American. For that's generations have been renewed, revitalized, and refreshed by the talent, the skill, the hard work, the courage, and determination of immigrants coming to our country.
Now, the plan today comes after President Biden took a step toward the other side of the immigration policy spectrum earlier this month, when he moved to basically really tighten up the number of people coming over the overwhelmed southern border. The White House says today's plan would shield about 500,000 spouses and 50,000 of their children from deportation, set up a pathway to a green card and eventually citizenship, and let some of these folks get work permits while they go through the process. It is almost certain to face legal challenges. NBC's Aaron Gilchrist is following all of it. And almost as soon as President Biden officially made this announcement, it became a political hot potato, Aaron, because this is happening, of course, against the backdrop of a presidential election year with immigration, one of the biggest issues for voters, they say, come November.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the White House, though, would say that this was not necessarily a political move that the president made today, that he was trying to sort of balance out using this action, trying to create some balance with the asylum action that he took about 2 weeks ago. Instead, I think the White House would argue that the president recognizes, as he said today, that there is a crisis at the border and that the immigration system in general is broken. But he'd also said that there is a way to secure the border and provide legal pathways to citizenship for migrants who've come into this country. And so today what we saw was the effort to create a streamlined process, an easier process for the spouses of U.S. citizens who came into the country who are undocumented at this point and have been here for at least 10 years. The president's saying that most of the people who would be impacted by this order are people who've been here for, on average, 23 years. And so this would help to make it possible for them to stay with their families, which was a key phrase that we heard both from the president and from other members of his staff. Of course, there was pushback to this. You noted that the Speaker of the House had comment about this. We also heard former President Trump speak about this, saying that this is really just a creation of an amnesty for people who've come into the country illegally. I want to play a little bit of what the former president had to say just a little while ago on the campaign trail.
We should not be talking amnesty. We should be talking about stopping the invasion instead. This is an invasion of our country.
And while President Biden's comments today were official in nature, he did take the opportunity to take some swipes at former President Trump, who is his competitor for the election in November, saying that he, referencing some of the rhetoric that the former president has used, derogatory terms to be applied to migrants, and to say that he wants to be able to keep families together and keep the American way of life in terms of embracing immigrants, something that we all continue to see, Hallie.
The White House presumably thinks that it will win, or at least has a chance at winning, what are expected to be legal challenges against this, right?
Yeah, we saw at least one conservative group go on social media and say that it plans to challenge the president's actions today. The White House press secretary, Karine Jean-Pierre, earlier today said that they believe that this is legally sound. This action is legally sound and something that they are prepared to defend. The White House also noting, as well as some of the advocates of this idea, and should note that there are many Democrats, progressives, who were not necessarily in favor of the asylum action, but are in favor of this action today, who've backed the president's play on this, and they have come out in support of what the president is doing, and they believe that any legal action that may come from this is something that they'll be able to stand up to in court. They referenced prior action taken during the Obama administration and the Bush administration, similar action that applied to members of the military. And so they think there's precedent, Hallie, for something like this to hold up.
Aaron Gilchrist, thank you very much. Appreciate that. Overseas now with the Russian president in North Korea tonight, arriving there not too long ago, just within the last few hours, for a very rare visit to North Korea, his first there in a generation. Look at this video. Vladimir Putin getting off the plane in Pyongyang. That's a little handshake, and look at that. A hug between him and Kim Jong-un on the tarmac. The relationship between these two authoritarian leaders has gotten cozier lately, with North Korea allegedly giving Russia important military support for Putin's invasion of Ukraine. And all of it is happening with new tensions in the area after South Korea's military fired warning shots when soldiers from the north briefly crossed the border between the two countries. Courtney Kuby is joining us now. And while it is a rare moment to see the Russian leader obviously in North Korea, it is not unusual to see the two of them getting kind of cozy, Court, right?
Yeah, and that is what really has U.S. officials concerned, is this relationship that continues to be growing and strengthening, and what that could mean specifically for the war in Ukraine, but also larger implications for the world. So as you mentioned, North Korea has now provided Russia with somewhere in their neighborhood of 3 to 5 million artillery shells that Russia has been using in Ukraine. But not just that, Hallie, they've also given them missiles and other ammunition critical to this war in Ukraine, which for all intents and purposes has become a stalemate and essentially a war of ammunition. But what concerns Biden administration officials now is, what is Russia giving North Korea in advance? They're looking at the possibility that there could be some sort of military technology transfers, perhaps things like ballistic missile technology or satellite launch technology. But they're also concerned about possible nuclear technology, specifically nuclear submarines. And why this is so important is there are several programs that North Korea has right now, Hallie, that are close to being operational. And if, in fact, Russia, who frankly historically has not shared this sort of technology with North Korea, if they're able to give them these last little bits of information that can move their programs to an operational position, it could potentially be a game changer here, Hallie, in multiple different areas.
Give us a gut check, Court, right? Help us put this into context of the level of alarm bell sounding that you're hearing from your sources on this.
We've been hearing alarm bells about North Korea all year, frankly. Now, historically, North Korea conducts more military actions, potentially provocative actions during an election year. That's not uncommon. That's expected. Okay. But this year seems to be a little bit different. Officials are worried that North Korea is going to conduct some of the most provocative military actions that they have seen in a decade. Maybe even one of the things they're really concerned about is a possible nuclear test later this year. The concern here is that with this growing relationship with Russia, Russia could be encouraging these sorts of actions with the ultimate goal of impacting the U.S. election, sowing chaos, and how that could impact the United States elections later this year, Hallie.
Courtney Cuby live for us here in D.C. Court, thanks. It's tonight's original now with in-depth reporting on a topic we've been watching, and this one has people pretty fired up. You already know that the White House and some in Congress want to revitalize the rail system in this country and give billions of dollars to support high-speed projects like ones between California and Nevada, L.A. and San Francisco, upgrades in Virginia, North Carolina, Chicago. But all that stuff you see here, that's years away. And the reality on the ground right now, more delays, with daily commuters stuck today heading from New Jersey into New York City. Just the latest mess at this crucial bottleneck that more than 500,000 people ride through every day. Here's Yasmin Vasugian.
Nightmare today for New Jersey commuters as Amtrak and New Jersey Transit trains were delayed, then diverted again.
This is really frustrating, and I think NJ Transit should really do something about it.
A disabled train and overhead wire issue inside the tunnel connecting New Jersey to New York had commuters diverted to Hoboken, leaving them stuck on the opposite side of the river.
The 8th largest economy in the world, and you can't get people to and from in a consistent manner without hours-long delays. So it's a real economic problem.
Amtrak telling NBC News crews worked quickly to resolve the issue, and it's working with its partners at NJT to investigate the cause. On May 21st, almost the identical issue, with riders experiencing long delays and diversions. The governor, Phil Murphy, outraged over the latest example of crumbling infrastructure impacting his state, sending a letter to Amtrak calling for immediate improvements.
You start out your day already going to work, and it creates this extra stress on you. Every day I say to my husband, what is the adventure on New Jersey Transit today?
New Jersey Transit not responding to our request for comment, but highlighting on its website that 89.5% of its trains are on time. And it comes just weeks before a 15% fare hike scheduled to kick in July 1st. A huge part of the problem is New Jersey Transit, a regional commuter system transporting almost 650,000 people every weekday, sharing a tunnel under the Hudson River with Amtrak's Northeast Corridor, which it touts as the nation's most traveled railroad.
It breaks down. And it has delays, and it's slow. I mean, even on a normal day, a 35-minute commute is really 50 minutes, right? And that's got to stop. And we're doing the work and spending the money and doing the construction to make it stop, but it is going to take some time.
Stephen Sigmund with the Gateway Development Commission working on an expansion project to build another tunnel to alleviate congestion, saying the build will cost $16 billion and will not be completed until 2035.
This has been a project that's 30 years in the making, and it has been stopped too many times because of politics, frankly.
There was a planned earlier expansion quashed by then New Jersey Governor Chris Christie in 2010, citing ballooning costs. New Jersey's current governor slamming that decision on Meet the Press just last year.
The biggest policy mistake of the past 50 years in New Jersey was his decision to cancel
the predecessor to this project.
We reached out to Murphy's office for comment on today's delays, but did not hear back. Then in 2020, New York Governor Cuomo accused then President Trump of playing politics when he yanked funding on the tunnel expansion. But the administration said, quote, it did not meet the requirements in law. Either way, the build was set back even further.
You just want to get home. You want to get home to your kids. You want to get home to walk your dogs.
Now commuters here in New York and New Jersey caught up in a political infrastructure nightmare with real consequences in one of the biggest cities in the world.
Yasmin is joining us now from just outside Penn Station in New York. And Yas, lest anybody who's not watching this inside New York think that this is only a local news story, there is a national piece to this that involves taxpayer dollars.
There is. So we talked about the Gateway Project, right? You just heard about that, costing $16 billion. $12 billion of that is federal funding, federal aid. $4 billion is in loans. So folks at home, right, that don't live in New York, New Jersey area, they're asking the question of why. Why $12 billion of federal funds is actually being given to this expansion. It's because 20%, Hal, right, of the GDP of this nation comes from this city. It comes from New York City. It comes from commuters walking through the very doors behind me, right? People are commodities. People are part of this economy. Just one little tidbit, Hal, I want to leave you with when it comes to some of these delays that we were taking a look at. Back in 2022, Amtrak registering over 100,000 plus hours of delay, Hal. Compare that to Japan, who registers their delays by minute. So think about how far off we are when it comes to the infrastructure in one of the wealthiest cities in the world.
Yasmin Vasugian, boy, get ready for the beat that you're now on here for the show, the transportation beat, if you will. Thanks, Yas. Appreciate it. Lots more to come here on the show, including officials in Russia saying dozens of people are in the hospital tonight with signs of botulism poisoning, who police think could be behind it. Plus, why one new bill in Thailand is so historic. Right as we were coming on the air, we're getting our first look at a mugshot that is probably blowing up your group chats. This is it. Justin Timberlake. You're about to see it here. Taken right after he was arrested on a DWI charge on Long Island in New York. This is him. You're about to see it. Leaving court earlier, a picture from the New York Post. Local police pulled him over last night after he allegedly blew past a stop sign. Police in a court complaint describing Timberlake as having bloodshot and glassy eyes with an odor of alcoholic beverage emanating from his breath. That's their words. Timberlake told police, I had one martini and I followed my friends home, according to the docs. All of it's happening as he's on tour right now with his next show just a few days away, scheduled for this Friday in Chicago. Aaron McLaughlin is live for us in Sag Harbor, New York, where this all went down. Danny Savalos has our legal breakdown. Aaron, let me start with you. What else do we know about the circumstances here?
Well, Hallie, a source close to Timberlake says that it was just after midnight he had had dinner at a nearby American hotel, which is frequented by celebrities and locals alike. He had gotten into a car. He was driving to a friend's house. According to the police report, as you mentioned, he drove through a stop sign without stopping. He swerved twice. He was stopped by police as a result. According to the police report, the officer writing his eyes were bloodshot and glassy. A strong odor of an alcoholic beverage was emanating from his breath. He had slowed speech and he performed poorly on all standardized field sobriety tests. They took him to the police station behind me where he spent the night. He had a court appearance this morning. He pleaded not guilty to DWI charges, and his next court date is scheduled for the end of July, Hallie.
There's apparently body cam footage, Aaron. We haven't seen it yet, right?
Yeah, that footage has not been released.
Okay.
The only thing authorities have released so far is that mugshot. Yeah.
You know, there's the Hamptons, like this area where you are, no stranger to celebrities in the summer, like to say the least here. But this is still a pretty interesting moment, and I am struck by the fact that that you ran into somebody pretty famous to ask him about it all. Talk us through it.
Yeah, we did. We did at the very same hotel that Justin Timberlake had dinner at last night. We saw Billy Joel, the legendary singer, having lunch there today. We asked him for his reaction to news of Timberlake's arrest. This is what he had to say.
I don't really know him that much, so I have no comment. Judge not, lest ye be judged.
Now, other locals, residents of the area, had much more to say, much stronger opinions on the arrest. Take a listen.
Devastated.
I mean, devastated is a strong word.
I'm a big JT fan, so it hurts.
Oh, boy. Shame on him. That's all I'm going to say.
He could definitely get like an Uber. Like, he has a lot of money. Like,
it's disappointing, but it happens far too often.
Residents we've been speaking to say this kind of thing actually happens all the time, especially tourists coming to towns such as Sag Harbor, and they're having fun and they're making unnecessary changes to the police response, according to residents that we've been talking to. Hallie.
Aaron, live for us there in Sag Harbor. Thanks. Dan, let me go to you. Why would police hold him overnight? Is that typical, especially in a high-profile case like this?
It's typical. Most DUIs happen at night, and you got to get before a judge, and judges go to bed at 10 o'clock, so no chance to see a judge. You're going to be there overnight. You get your first appearance, and then you usually get out of there unless you have a hold for some other case, but that's not Justin Timberlake. He gets out in the morning or as soon as the judge gets to court. But in terms of this case, this really is two separate kinds of cases. He's going to get hit with the DWI. He's also going to get hit with the refusal, because New York's one of those states in which all drivers impliedly consent to take these chemical tests. And the key is calling it a chemical test, not a breath test. A breath test in New York is a little portable thing that you get at Radio Shack that the cops have in their car. They ask you to take it. It's not admissible. It just gives them yay or nay the presence of alcohol. The chemical test can be the breath test. So it appears so far that he refused the formal chemical test, also known as the breathalyzer, the intoxilizer, all of these machines that they use to test your BAC.
Danny Savalos, thank you very much. More to watch on that one as it develops. Appreciate it. Let's get you over to the 5 things our team thinks you should know about tonight. Number 1, the shooter who killed 5 people at a Colorado LGBTQ+ nightclub, pleading guilty to dozens of federal hate crime charges, sentenced to 55 life terms today. The shooter's already serving life in prison after pleading guilty to state charges for the 2022 attack. Number 2, NVIDIA, now the most valuable public company in the world. You know this company. It's behind all those chips that power AI. Its stock went up 3.5% today, lifting its market cap to $3.3 trillion. That means NVIDIA now passes Microsoft, which was number 1. They'd already passed Apple earlier this month. Its shares are up 170% this year. Number 3, Stellantis, recalling more than 1 million cars in the U.S. and Canada because of a problem with its rear-view cameras. Apparently, a software glitch means they're not working properly, and that can obviously put you at a bigger risk of a crash. These are cars like recent models of the Jeep Compass, the Grand Cherokee, etc. The company says the software has already been updated in more than 700,000 cars. Fortunately, they're not aware of anybody getting hurt because of it. Number 4, Ralph Lauren unveiling Team USA's looks, the fits for the Olympics, the opening and closing ceremonies. This is it. What do you think? Like a little blazer look. We love a blazer blue jean combo here on this show. It's the brand's 9th time designing Team USA's opening uniforms. Number 5, Pizza Hut, big menu revamp, introducing Chicago Tavern style pizza. That's what they call it. It has a thin crust, a lot of toppings, including pesto sauce, chicken sausage, caramelized onions. When we come back, the big city school district pushing to restrict phones in schools. We'll tell you what the plan looks like and what it could mean for a whole bunch of students. Plus, why police in riot gear had to break up some chaos in the stands at the European Championship match today. NBC covers hundreds of international stories every day, and because it can be tough to read or watch or listen to them all, our teams around the world have done it for you. Here's a look at what they're watching in a segment we call The Global. Out of Russia, police arresting 3 people in connection with a suspected botulism outbreak after dozens of people were hospitalized with symptoms of the poisoning. Officials traced the outbreak back to salads made by a popular delivery service. They detained 2 managers along with the head of a canned beans company. Botulism can often be caused by bacteria from food that hasn't been preserved or canned properly. It's very scary. It can cause paralysis, difficulty breathing, sometimes even be deadly. Out of Thailand, a landmark bill has just passed in that country's Senate legalizing same-sex marriage. It passed with an overwhelming majority, making Thailand now the third country in Asia after Taiwan and Nepal to legalize marriage equality and the first in Southeast Asia. The law still needs royal approval, but the first same-sex weddings could happen later this year. And out of Germany, some fighting between Turkey and Georgia soccer fans ahead of their Euro Championship match today. Look at this. You can see what it looked like in the stands with supporters from both sides throwing punches, throwing things at each other. That's not sweat. It was pouring rain. That's why it's so wet. Police in riot gear eventually had to come break the whole thing up. Turkey ended up winning, by the way. To California now, where the governor today says he wants to pass laws to really restrict how kids can use their phones during the school day. With Governor Gavin Newsom's announcement coming as the LA Unified School District also today voted to ban phones and social media for students starting in the second half of the next school year. A school board member saying some other places have seen really positive results from cell bans. Things like happier kids, more interactions between students, better grades. All of it, of course, coming on the heels of that op-ed by the Surgeon General calling for Congress to require warning labels on social media apps. Morgan Chesky is joining us now. It's not a new thing that Governor Newsom's warning about the dangers of what happens online for kids, but this is an interesting and big move. We've seen it sort of on a school-by-school basis, but for the LA Unified School District to do this, huge school district, for the state to consider this, pretty significant.
Yeah, Hallie, absolutely. And you mentioned that school-by-school basis. Governor Newsom would be the first to say that it was because of legislation that he passed back in 2019 that California school districts are able to take on this issue on a district-by-district basis, as we've seen the LA School District do just today. More than 400,000 students, the second largest district in the nation, now taking on the issue of phones in the classroom. It remains to be seen, Hallie, how the district will decide how exactly to implement this, how to enforce this, what the policies will look like when they go into effect in January of 2025. But this is part of an ongoing conversation now following, as you mentioned, the Solicitor General's warning that these could pose significant issues, whether it be attention to studies, whether it be the growing number of students diagnosed with depression or anxiety. This is all now moving forward in a direction that is certainly being celebrated by Governor Newsom. And he says he looks forward to adding additional legislation to kind of enforce this in an even broader way than the LA district may be doing here. Very interesting and important to note here, Hallie, that last year, Florida was the first state in the country to place an all-out ban on cell phones during instructional time in the classroom here. Hallie?
Morgan Chesky live for us there in L.A. Morgan, thank you. Speaking of Florida, in the couple of years since it passed its controversial Don't Say Gay law, it's been facing backlash nationally over that decision. Even more states have passed their own version, these copycat laws. You might not have heard about them because a lot of that backlash is coming at a super local level, spurred on by groups of parents and grassroots organizers. Our Maura Barrett traveled to North Carolina, where hundreds have joined on to a federal complaint against a state law that they say fails to protect trans kids.
It was the Florida fight over schools that captivated the nation. Republicans pushing through the parental rights and education law, dubbed Don't Say Gay by opponents. Now, 2 years later, several states swiftly and without much fanfare passed their own laws replicating Florida as part of a flurry of anti-LGBTQ bills introduced in red state houses. The laws across 11 states limit instruction around sexual orientation or gender identity in schools.
This legislation codifies the rights of parents and guardians and creates a system for remedies for parents wishing to address concerns.
In North Carolina, it goes a step further, including a provision that requires teachers to notify parents of pronoun changes, which advocates say effectively outs trans students, something that worries 17-year-old Milo, who is trans.
I have multiple friends who, if their parents found out that they were trans, they would probably get kicked out of their house.
Experts contrast the lack of national attention with the widespread backlash to the state's trans bathroom bill in 2016, which was later repealed.
And that's why we're seeing these laws happen in a dozen states or 20 states at once, because half the country can't be boycotted.
Do you worry that it indicates a sense of acceptance of these types of laws?
We're seeing parents get a lot more politically engaged.
Love is love. Stacey Staggs is one of those parents.
This law was designed to allow hate
and anger, and to discriminate against people for things they don't have any control over.
She says her children's school district is in overcompliance of the law, canceling the subscription to an entire online library database of tens of thousands of books over just a handful of titles in question. The state's Department of Public Instruction, which oversees schools, did not address the book bans, but noted the legislation advises educators against alerting parents about a name or pronoun change if it could result in abuse or neglect.
How concerned are you about the scope of your child's education? I don't want to cry. It keeps me up at night. I mean, we've seen more instances of kids calling each other names, physical fights, intimidation and bullying.
Some of those instances highlighted in a 113-page Title IX federal complaint that Stagg, alongside dozens of students, parents, and teachers, gave testimony for, challenging the state law. As they wait for the review, trans students like Noah and Milo want to show lawmakers that students like them aren't a threat, but the laws in place are.
This is like the time in your life where like you sort of figure out who you are. And so without having like the safety or like feeling kind of threatened by these new laws is like not good.
Things are kind of awful right now, but the best thing we can do is just keep living.
As the conservative right employs this national effort with Moms for Liberty, for example, the opposing grassroots groups are also emerging. The Campaign for Southern Equality, for example, has templates on its website for school districts that are looking to also file Title IX complaints. They also have speakers guides for people who are looking to speak up at their school board meetings. So it's kind of a training in a way to fight back against the culture wars. Now, I should note, I did reach out to the Republican lawmakers who introduced the original bill, but did not hear back. Hallie?
Our thanks to Maura Barrett for that reporting. Coming up, former President Trump rallying in a key swing state, but is he planning to stay there for his own convention or snub it? We're live in Wisconsin next. Just the last couple of minutes, former President Trump wrapping up a rally in a key battleground state, the state of Wisconsin, just a few days after he reportedly bashed the state's biggest city and this year's RNC host, talking about Milwaukee, telling a group of House Republicans it was a, quote, horrible place, according to one source in the room, although his campaign later worked quickly to clarify, as did the former president, that he was referring specifically to the crime rates there and to alleged voter fraud. All of it obviously important in this key battleground. Somebody's going to win it, and whoever does is going to have a better shot at winning the White House here. President Biden won it by 20,000 votes. Only 20,000 votes, half a percentage point back in 2020. And the most recent statewide polls show that it is neck and neck, effectively deadlocked now between President Biden and former President Trump. NBC's Shaq Brewster is there in Racine, Wisconsin, where the rally, I understand, Shaq, is this a live look? I'm going to ask my control room, I think is still happening. Oh, that's the music. That's the wrap-up music.
He's still on
Take
stage,
it away,
but
friend.
he just finished speaking.
Because what's so interesting here is this state is going to be critically important, and there's been like a mini news cycle of drama around whether Donald Trump today would actually stay in Wisconsin or not for his convention. Talk us through it.
Yeah, I think I'll start with what he said when he started his speech, Hallie, in which he said, "I love Milwaukee." It was one of the first things that came out of his mouth, and why he was doing that was to kind of get back and catch up to some reporting that's been out there. One, his comments that he was reported saying when he was talking to House Republicans, calling Milwaukee, the city that's hosting his nominating convention, horrible. Well, he denied that he's made those comments. And then there was a report that came out just a couple of hours ago from a local Chicago station saying that he was planning to spend the night, instead of in Milwaukee, in Chicago, where he has a hotel property. Well, he told our affiliate earlier today that that is not true. He said that he'll be staying and sleeping in Milwaukee, but he seems to be trying to make up some ground or clear the air a little bit, trying to say that he loves Milwaukee, even though he's not in Milwaukee, but we're about 25 minutes away from the city.
So there's that. There's also, as we look ahead, obviously, to the election, we talked about the role that Wisconsin will almost certainly play. This is his first trip there since his conviction. Any indication that that is having an impact one way or the other? He talked about it a bit at the rally. I want to play that real quick.
You know, Alphonse Capone was indicted less than Trump. I never heard the word indictment, and then all of a sudden, all that's coming from all different angles at me, all caused by Biden and his thugs.
Of course, the former president has tried to blame the Biden administration for that felony conviction that happened, of course, in a state legal proceeding. I'm looking at now, Shaq, forgive me, on the left side of the screen. It looks like he is off the stage at this point. What are you hearing from folks there?
Well, you know, it's something that I've been talking to folks here a lot about multiple times. There was first back the night of the conviction where I went up to Kenosha and talked to a range of voters. And the biggest sense that I got was that, no, this was not something that was going to determine the vote, even if they were paying attention to it. But when I talked to folks here today, even if I didn't bring it up, it was something that Trump supporters told me they were watching and was animating for them. Listen to what they told me directly.
I think it's going to actually strengthen him. I think they made a mistake by doing that.
Why do you say that?
Because it's going to embolden his base, and then it's going to bring other people who see it's clearly was a sham.
He's been convicted on a false jury and trial, but he didn't do any of those things in my books.
And who cares who he had sex with before he was president?
It was something that was animating for his supporters when you look at fundraising. But when you listen to what Democrats here in the state brought up in a counter-programming press conference earlier today, they didn't bring up his trial. Instead, they were talking about manufacturing and the economy. I think it's a hint for what even Democrats here think will be a more effective line of messaging against former President Trump, Hallie.
Shaq Brewster, thank you very much. Live first there in Wisconsin. Still to come 1 year exactly to the day after that Titan submersible disaster. We're looking at what could be the next trip to the Titanic wreck. Stay with us. Today marks exactly 1 year since the OceanGate Titan submersible imploded during that dive to the wreck of the Titanic, killing all 5 people on board. I'm sure you remember that story, with the race against time to look for any potential survivors, captivating the country. It was horrifying, but despite the tragedy, one billionaire explorer is promising to try again and prove that deep-sea adventures can be done right. Rahima Ellis has the story.
The OceanGate submersible disaster still seared in our memory, and now a billionaire explorer is planning to go back to the wreck of the Titanic, hoping to prove that deep-sea exploration can be safe, a major challenge after a very public disaster. On the morning of June 18, 2023, OceanGate's Titan submersible began its voyage to the bottom of the Atlantic, more than 12,000 feet below the surface, to visit the Titanic. On board was OceanGate CEO Stockton Rush, along with 4 other passengers. But about 3 hours into its descent, the vessel lost contact with its support ship. Almost 8 hours passed until OceanGate notified authorities, according to the U.S. Coast Guard, and the search was on.
Breaking news this hour, a massive search and rescue mission is underway in the North Atlantic.
For the next 3 days, the world watched with bated breath as ships, subs, and aircraft from several countries scoured the ocean surface and scanned the sea floor.
Right now, there are roughly 16 hours worth of oxygen left on board.
But what we didn't know that first day, on the day the Titan disappeared, the U.S. Navy detected a sound, quote, consistent with an implosion or explosion, but not definitive, located near where the sub went missing. That information passed on to the Coast Guard, but not reported publicly. But it meant that Titan's occupants likely died instantly under the immense crushing pressure of the deep sea. On the 4th day of the search, a robotic vessel found several shattered pieces of the Titan's hull, confirming the fate of all on board.
Yes, this was a terrible disaster, but in our opinion, an avoidable one.
Ohio billionaire Larry Connor, at 74, is a seasoned explorer. In 2022, he piloted an Axiom rocket to the International Space Station and even dived in a submersible to the Mariana Trench. Now he's partnering with Triton Submarines to lead a new manned mission to the Titanic in a custom-built submersible.
And if you're asking, are we confident we can do it safely? The answer is yes.
In an interview with the Today Show, Connor says the sub will be thoroughly tested and built to stringent safety standards.
We can demonstrate worldwide that this type of exploration and submersible is safe.
After the disaster, OceanGate faced massive criticism for what many experts saw as an unorthodox and improperly tested design. OceanGate suspended all exploration and commercial operations.
Rahema is joining us now. Let's talk timeline, Rahema. When is this next exploration planned for?
They're saying in about 2 years from now. Okay. Larry Connor says it'll be the summer of 2026. And he says this vessel will also feature an experimental design with an acrylic bubble, giving them a 320 degrees of viewing of that wreckage of the Titanic. Excuse me. But he says they're going to take multiple steps and have multiple certifications. And if any point along the line there are doubts, in his words, he says this project is over. But he feels confident that they can get the safety certifications that they need to get down safely and back up again. Hallie?
Rahema Ellis, thank you very much for that reporting. That does it for us for this hour. We've got more coverage picking up right now.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.